What's going on, everybody? This is your man, Fit Tech Wellness Coach Mike. It is Friday morning, a gray and dreary Friday morning, but still yet a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. I want to take a little bit of your time to this, well, if it's morning or noon or night, whenever you're watching this video, to talk about the little confusion of calorie restriction and fasting or intermittent fasting, or the different types of fasts that you have for weight loss management. So I was having a conversation with a dietitian the other day, and very, very intelligent person, and this is really not a knock on her or anything. And I was throwing around the idea of creating a forum to educate people on healthy eating, dietary tools to help with weight loss and things like that. So this particular dietitian is not, she teaches people to eat 5 meals a day, 3 meals and small 2 snacks, whatever. She teaches that philosophy, that conventional wisdom that everyone has taught. And so, you know, it's not the, I'll put it this way, again, it has different impact. It has a impact on longevity, a negative impact on longevity when you eat all the time, when you graze throughout the day. Every 2-3 hours you're eating something is not necessary. And I'll explain to you why people teach that. And also, it's proven to not be a very solid, sustainable method for weight loss. And the key word is sustainable. So the trick is this: when people are instructed to do a program like that, many people do have an initial weight loss success with the calorie restriction or eating the multiple times a day, or it's called sometimes the eat less, move more type of plan. And studies show that doing this, when you reduce carbs, when you reduce calories, you do have an initial reduction in weight. So I can see why people who do it, who try to do it for a while, they have some success. And what tends to happen is this success may be present even throughout a year. And sometimes people get lost in that year and say, look at how long I've kept this weight off. But after a year or so, something tends to happen. People tend to slow down. They maintain what they've lost to a screeching halt. And they may not even be at their current weight loss goal. So they get to a weight loss goal, or they get to a point where they haven't reached their goal, and then what happens is the weight has stopped coming off. It completely stopped. And now they're like, okay, the weight stopped. I'm not losing 3-4 pounds a week anymore from doing this exercise and reducing my calories. It stopped. Well, let me rev it up. Let me reduce my calories even more and exercise more. And so by pushing the envelope even more, because they initially gained weight by implementing this type of strategy, they think that if I push the envelope and beef it up and make it and reduce more calories and exercise more, I'll break the plateau and gain more weight. But it doesn't happen that way. And people, if you're watching this, you know someone or you yourself have gone through this, and you know what happened. The weight loss really stalled, and then not only that, what's worse is it began to come back. And you really don't know why it began to come back. And that's the problem with the majority of programs out here that focus on either low carb diet or calorie restriction. And low carb diet, again, you will lose weight in the beginning. You will lose weight because when you reduce your calories, reduce your carbs, you will lose weight. But what tends to happen is you go lose this weight following a calorie restriction diet. You hit your weight loss goal. The person who helped you, they're in your life for a few months, whatever, to help you get on track. You lose 20, 30 pounds. I lost this weight. Yeah. And then you kind of disconnect from that person, from that coach, or from that trainer, or from that teacher. And now you're on your own. Right? Now you're on your own. And then what happens when you're on your own? You gain the weight back. And so when you go back to the coach or the trainer or the teacher, they say, well, what happened? You gained the weight back. You got off the program. You didn't complete the program. You didn't continue to do what we said. No, you did continue to do what they said. The problem is, in that strategy, they don't recognize the fault long term in that strategy. Metabolically, they don't understand or are willing to acknowledge that there is a fault in that strategy long term metabolically. They're not willing to admit that. And what is that fault? Well, that fault is your metabolism. It adapts to what you're doing. It adapts to the reduction of calories that you're providing it. It adapts to it. So what does it look like when it adapts? Well, it also reduces or produces a lower energy expenditure. So when you reduce your calories from 2,000 to 1,500, over time, you may have some initial weight loss because you reduce your calorie intake by 500 calories. Most people do 1,200, especially, and particularly women. So now you reduce your calories from, 2,000 to 1,200, that's a reduction of 800 calories. So you will lose some weight in the beginning initially. But what happens, what they don't tell you, is that eventually your metabolism is going to adapt to that 1,500 calorie intake. And now your basal metabolic rate is only going to burn 1,500 calories. It's not going to burn less. It's going to burn what you give it. It's not going to continue to burn more than what you're giving it because the body needs to survive. So your metabolism slows down. And after a while, what happens is you become hungrier. Why? Because the major thing that's not being addressed in calorie restriction diets is insulin. You can calorie restrict yourself, but still have not addressed your insulin levels or your insulin resistance. And calorie restriction diets do not address effectively insulin resistance or insulin levels. It does initially, but then it stops. It's not a powerful enough tool. So does calorie restriction work? Yes. But does it? See, to me, something that works is something that's sustainable, something that is long-term, something that will continue to work in the future. But if it gives you the result that you want immediately or initially, and then it changes on you, it reverses, then it really didn't work. It was a temporary patch, giving you the perception that it's going to work. It's working. It worked temporarily, but it didn't fix the problem because you still got the problem. So the problem is going to come right back and present itself. And that's the key, guys. It's like, I don't know if professionals understand this or they choose to turn a blind eye to it. I don't know what it is, but when you follow your people, you probably experienced it. You've lost weight, you have someone help you lose weight, and then you gained it back. How long did you stay with that person all the way throughout the time that you gained the weight back? No, typically you probably left. You stopped their services, they helped you out, you gained some weight. You say, okay, I'm good now, I got it, I know what to do now. And then what happens? You gain the weight back, or you stop losing it. And then when a coach sees you again, you weren't compliant. You didn't have enough willpower. You couldn't stay on the program. You gained the weight back. Now I gotta charge you to do it again. Nah, it's not a purposeful setup, but it's just ignorance is bliss. A lot of dietitians or trainers or even doctors, one who promotes strictly a 5 to 6 meal a day program for weight loss is not leading you to sustainable weight loss. They're leading you to weight loss as far as the eye can see, but after that, that program does not lead you to sustainable weight loss. It will work, and it's a tool that you can use, but just know that the more powerful tool that you can implement is fasting or intermittent fasting. Okay, and intermittent fasting is pretty much, you know, not eating all food some of the time, compared to calorie restriction, which is not eating some food all of the time. All right, big difference. Big difference. Not eating some food all the time is not the same as not eating all food some of the time. All right, restricting from all food some of the time. And sometimes you need to restrict yourself from food. Why? Well, we'll talk about fasting in another video, is why fasting is such a more powerful tool than calorie restriction. But remember, guys, I want you to understand, if you're doing calorie restriction diet, understand, yes, in a temporary scheme of things, you will see some weight loss. You will see. But just understand that if you're not appropriately and effectively addressing your insulin, which is the driving factor, and we're going to talk about it in the next fasting video, it's the driving factor for fat reduction and unlocking those fat stores. If you don't address that, I don't care how many calories you reduce, your body's going to adapt and you're going to have a regain. It happens. This is not a new concept that I'm talking about that no one has ever seen. It happens over and over and over and over and over and over again. But because the professionals who put it out don't want to admit that they're wrong, they won't go and correct it because their ego, their professional ego, is at stake. So they'll just say, well, you didn't stick to the program, you didn't follow it, rather than saying, you know what, we were wrong. It's not about calorie restriction. It is about this. We're going to revamp what we taught. So they won't do that. They won't admit that they were wrong, because it's something about the pride of a professional that I'm right. I'm the expert. You know, I'm the, I am the dominant one in this ideal of thought. You know, they won't say, hey, we were wrong. I was wrong about that. They won't. So that's why you won't hear anything about the imperfections or the faults of calorie restriction. Okay, so like this video, subscribe to my channel, stay tuned for the next video on why fasting is more powerful than calorie restriction. All right, peace.